if you are arresting us, we will wait outside. But if we are waiting, if they ask us to excuse them, we will wait outside. But if you want to arrest us, tell us you are arresting us so that we are sure. So we don't need you, we are going out. So we don't need you, we are going out. So it is not arrest. We are going to wait outside. If you are arresting us, let it be clear that you are arresting us in spite of what we have pointed out about our statutes and the statutes of YA. Yes, we are excusing you, we are arresting us.
Ìlú Nigeria, ìlú àwọn wèrè. Indeed. They said that you collected money, Abi, you no collect money from government. Yes, we collected money. But it was only 18% of our operation money. Okay, all the monies you've been collecting from Nigerians and stuff, how you are supposed to remit them. Say, no, we are not supposed to. So what do you do with the money? You cannot ask us. It's the convention. It's a West Africa. What did they happen now? I be not be this same WAEC. They say Jegede, I'm waiting with that guy's name. Jegede something was generating highest money. That they didn't know what they have been doing with the money before Jegede came under Bokuwari. And they say this Jegede man who has been generating 3 billion, it's called billion. I thought they said they've been remitting the money. As you walk up, like say sometimes if they really tell you what is going on inside Nigeria, okay, apart from the fact that you'll be wondering how that is even possible, right? You'll be more shocked to ask yourself, like, how is the country still existing? That beats a lot of explanation, put it that way. But Obasanjo has this to say. He was on a program last night. Africa is sitting on a keg of a gunpowder. And it seems they are not even paying attention.
Warning about this. And all over Africa, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Because the youth, and there's virtually no exception in Africa where the youth are not angry. They are unemployed. They are unempowered. And they see nothing other than hopelessness. And in a situation like that, what you have from frustrated youth is anger. And when they have no hope, and if you really want to kill any human being, take hope out of his life.
Yeah.
And that is what is happening.
And they have nothing to lose.
And they have, well, if you have nothing to gain, you are jobless, you are not empowered, you are in poverty, and then you see your leaders, some of them in obscene affluence. Then what do you do? You are a human being, and the resources of your country is provided for that country by God for the benefit of all the citizens of that country.
Absolutely. I remember in 2011 when the Arab Spring was sweeping across North Africa, and then you came to Kenya a couple of years later, and we were talking about that, and then you coined a phrase that I remember all to this day. You said, from the Arab Spring, there will be an African winter. Is this what's happening?
It's the beginning. And if no adequate attention is paid to the needs of the youth in Africa, the autumn will turn to winter.
And it'll be ugly.
it will be very ugly for all of us.
Tell me.
One.
Like him, hate him, it will still speak something that you can't really fault. Indeed, something is cooking. And only few who probably knows or feel it are those raising the alarm. You see those ones who are so blind because of power and everything around it, right? They deserve what is coming for them. They do. Here is Akpabiole explaining to all of you, as proud as they are now, that they have a minimum wage of 70,000 naira. Here he is explaining to all of you now what this truly means. I hope you do know. Your cleaner, your what else? Everyone that actually works for you, you cannot pay them less than 70,000 naira. That cannot buy them half bag of rice, too, right?
It says that if you're a tailor and you employ additional hand, you cannot pay the person below 70,000. If you're a mother and you have a newborn child and you want to bring in a housemaid to look after your child, you cannot pay that housemaid below 70,000. It is not maximum wage. It applies to all and sundry. If you bring in a driver, if you bring in a gate man, you cannot pay that gate man below 70,000. So I'm very delighted that this has been passed, and we now look forward to employers of labor going ahead to improve on what has been set as a benchmark for all and sundry to follow. So I congratulate the Nigerian Labour Congress, I congratulate all Nigerians, and I congratulate the Senate and the National Assembly in general for this epoch-making legislation, which has even reduced the time of negotiation from 5 years to 3 years in view of the expiring effect of foodstuffs. So it's now necessary that we review it every 3 years instead of 5 years. This is again a landmark legislation, so congratulations to all. On that note, it is now my privilege to pronounce that this Senate stands adjourned till the 17th day of September 2024 at 11 a.m. prompt.
Oti boya taye ti jina iya yen ma lo gbe gesi ataye lori le wonu e omo were ko ku mo kuti e afela kuti woni were Oti boya taye ti jina iya yen ma lo gbe gesi ataye lori le wonu e omo were ko ku mo kuti
Atari. Anyway, that's that. I've grabbed our book, okay? And I know that is where some of you will just be like, you know what? Okay, that's it. That's me. Fine. If you have to leave now, that's fine, okay? Just make sure that you like the broadcast, okay? Like it, share it. We are continuing with our White Malice reading. And I'm going to read for the next half an hour. Yeah, I'm going to read for the next half an hour. And I will take calls. So I'll take a break first. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. And I will be back in a minute. No, probably longer than that. Just stretch my body.
La
Thank you so much. So I want to believe that everyone left here is interested in this reading. So thank you. So I'm going to continue. Now we're going to just go straight to chapter 19 now. And it's about 17 pages. So let's get down to it. So this is us now getting to the stage where the cavalry is gathering, where the CIA, America, and the rest of them, they've had enough of Patrice Lumumba. It's either Congo breaks into pieces or Lumumba is completely removed and killed. So the cavalry, they say the road to Calvary. Road to Calvary. So once Devlin had returned to the Congo from Washington in late July, the CIA plots targeting Lumumba rapidly took shape. On 17th August, Devlin sent a cable to CIA headquarters, warning of a communist plan for which there was no evidence to take over the Congo. Lumumba, Kashamura, Ghanaian ambassador Jean, and Madame Blouin asserted Devlin are all anti-white and latter communists. So are Momo Touré, Yansan Sekou, and Louis Benzine, Guinean advisors. He added that Sergei Michael, who was attached to the Algerian provisional government and was currently serving Lumumba as his press attaché, was even more in the commie camp and anti-Western. The situation, he warned, is rapidly getting worse, and the commie design now seems suddenly clear. The commie design, it is already late. This was Devlin sending a cable to Washington in August 1960. Bronson Tweedy responded to the cable the same day. He was seeking State Department approval. He assured Devlin to remove Lumumba from power. Ambassador Timberlake, too, sent a cable on 17th August to the State Department. He warned that Ghana was giving aid and comfort to Lumumba and the communists, and that Ghana, along with Guinea, would oppose any change in the government of the Congo and any action of the United Nations which would reduce Lumumba's power or change his political course. The next day at 9 a.m. in the summer residence of President Esinoa, a meeting of the National Security Council was held to discuss the Congo. Under Secretary of State Dillon presented background information to the council and asserted that Lumumba was serving the Soviets. Allen Dulles agreed, adding that Lumumba was in Soviet pay. Timberlake added Dulles was concerned that the ANC was armed and that Lumumba could use it to terrorize the whites. He might force all the whites out except for the Soviet technicians. The discussion was written up in a memorandum by Robert H. Johnson. This is the memorandum. Dulles argued that it was important to preserve Katanga as a separate, viable asset. Esinoa was in agreement. He suggested it might be a good idea if the United Nations were to recognize Katanga, even though that view contradicted America's official position. The clear consensus around the table was that Lumumba was a threat to American interests and had to be removed. Maurice Stans hoped this could be achieved without violence. We might base ourselves on Shombe and Kasavubu, he suggested, and throw out Lumumba by peaceful means. So this was Robert H. Johnson's memorandum, though, right? Meanwhile, on the same day, as the meeting of the NSC, at the meeting of the NSC, National Security Council, Devlin sent a dramatic cable from Leopoldville. Embassy and station believe Congo experiencing classic communist efforts, effort takeover. Many forces at work here: Soviets, Czechs, Ghanaians, Communist Party, etc. Although difficult to determine major influencing factors to predict outcome struggle for power, decisive period not far off. I believe so. Power. So it's a decisive period not far off. There was no basis for such an alarming report, but it justified Devlin's proposal for an operation to assist a Congolese effort to organize opposition to Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, with the aim of replacing him with a more moderate and pro-Western government. He sent a follow-up cable reporting that Timberlake approved of the plan. 2 days later, on the 19th of August, the CIA authorized the station in Leopoldville to proceed. This was the first big undertaking of the CIA's African division, and it was given every priority. It was at the top of the agenda at a meeting on 25th August 1960 of the National Security Council subcommittee responsible for the planning of covert operations, known as the Special Group. Members included Allen Dewes, Livingston Marchant. From the State Department, John N. Irwin II, the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, and Gordon Gray, the White House Security Advisor. The Special Group agreed to keep all options open for the possible removal of Lumumba. The meaning of this agreement was clarified by the release in April 2018 of the transcript of Dillon's 1975 testimony to the Church Committee, under questioning by Counsel Frederick D. Barron. Their exchange reveals details about the meeting of the Special Group on 25th August 1960. Mr. Barron, so from your knowledge of, this is like exchange now between Barron and Dillon, okay? So Mr. Barron asked, from your knowledge of Special Group meetings and minutes, it is your reading of this sentence that, in quotes, it was finally agreed that planning for the Congo would not necessarily rule out consideration of any particular kind of activity which might contribute to getting rid of Lumumba, of course. You would read that sentence to indicate that an assassination was within the bounds of the kind of activity that might be used to get rid of Lumumba? A question mark. Mr. Dillon answered, yes, I would. Barron asked again, and you were commenting before that, Mr. Dewes might be expected by, say, some members of the Special Group to return to the Special Group if an assassination were being mounted? A question mark. And Dillon answered, not only that, but anything being mounted. I mean, whatever action to get rid of Lumumba. And Gordon Gray, I think they would have kept him notified because it was sort of central in this thing. They wouldn't do anything without his at least knowing about it. So this reference to Gray, the White House Security Advisor, was picked up by Counsel Barron, who asked Dillon about the role of Esinoa in the acceptance of assassination as a means to get rid of Lumumba. Now the conversation from Barron and Dillon again. So Barron, Mr. Gray commented that his associates had expressed extremely strong feelings on the necessity for very straightforward action in this situation and wondered whether the plan as outlined were sufficient to accomplish this. Let me represent to you that we have testimony from Thomas Parrott, the secretary of the special group on CIA activity in relation to the Congo, who took the minutes for this meeting and other special group meetings, that when he used the phrase, in quote, Mr. Gray's associate or Mr. Gray's friend, of quote, he was referring euphemistically to the president. And Dillon answered, that is what I would more or less have assumed. But as long as you have that testimony, my assumption is probably correct. That was Dillon's response. So Robert H. Johnson also gave testimony in 1975 to the church committee, which substantiates the statement by Dillon. Johnson testified that when he was taking note of an NSC meeting in the summer of 1960, evidently the meeting on 18th August, President Ezinowa said something, I can no longer remember his words, that came across to me as an order for the assassination of Lumumba. Ezinowa turned to Deuce and said something to the effect that Lumumba should be eliminated in the full hearing of all those in attendance. According to Johnson, there was a stunned silence for about 15 seconds, and then the meeting continued. There was no discussion, he explained. The meeting simply moved on. But he could remember his sense of that moment quite clearly because the president's statement came as a great shock to me. He said he had heard of nothing like that since. John Hywen, the Assistant Secretary of Defense who was at the meeting, said later to the church committee that he could not recall any plan for assassination, but he added, in quote, it is my general opinion that it would be improper for the Director of Central Intelligence to undertake an assassination operation without an express directive from the president. The president needed enough information to stop an action, argues Peter Gross in his biography of Alain Deuce, but not so much that plausible deniability is lost. That is, the ability to deny knowledge of a secret undertaking if it were to become public. Defenders of presidential virtues only insult Ezinowa's intelligence. Gross observes, in suggesting that he did not understand the intimidation he was receiving from his aides and the signals he was sending when he let the opportunities pass without a negative response. At any point between July and October of 1960, Ezinowa could have told Allen and Bissell that their efforts to immobilize Lumumba should stop, short of actual assassination. This, adds Gross, he did not do. On 27th August 1960, 2 days after the meeting of the special group,